Welcome to World Talk Brief.
So, the 2026 World Cup is shaping up to be a tournament like we have never seen before. Today, we're going to break down exactly why it's so unprecedented. We'll map out the new, complicated paths to the final, we'll analyze the top contenders, and of course, we'll talk about the players, the stars who are set to shine, and the ones facing some major setbacks. Let's dive in.
All right, first up, what really makes this World Cup so different from every single one that's come before? Well, it all boils down to one word: scale.
For the very first time, the tournament is ballooning from 32 teams to 48. Yeah, you heard that right, 48. That's a 50% jump. It's a huge deal because it opens the door for more nations, especially from Africa and Asia, to get a shot on the world's biggest stage. It's all about inclusivity, but believe me, it changes absolutely everything.
And that expansion doesn't stop with the teams. For the first time ever, we've got 3 host nations: the United States, Canada, and Mexico. We're talking 104 matches spread across 16 different cities. This thing is going to be a truly continental-sized spectacle.
But here's the catch. With that massive scale comes some pretty massive challenges. The sheer geography of it all, combined with the new format, introduces 2 giant variables that are going to define this tournament: logistics and climate. This is going to be a World Cup of attrition, where just managing travel and fatigue becomes as important as any on-field tactic.
And check this out. This really shows the kind of logistical inequality we're talking about. FIFA promised they'd cluster the groups geographically, right? Well, the reality is a bit different. If you're in Group I, you'll travel just over 1,000 miles. Not too bad. But if you're unlucky enough to be in Group J, you're looking at a staggering 6,400-mile nightmare, basically ping-ponging across the continent. That's over 5 times the travel, which could create a huge advantage for some teams before a ball is even kicked in the knockout rounds.
And it's not just the travel you got to worry about. The climate itself is a massive risk factor. A new report shows this tournament is really on the edge. A staggering 14 of the 16 host cities, that's almost 90% of them, are already considered at risk for extreme heat. On top of that, 6 face major flooding risks, and about a third could be dealing with water scarcity. This isn't some far-off problem. It's the reality teams are going to face in 2026.
So you've got 48 teams trying to navigate this massive, challenging landscape. What does the road to the final even look like now? Well, that all comes down to the draw.
The path to glory has a totally new look. Okay, so in the group stage, the top 2 teams from each of the 12 groups go through automatically. Simple enough. But here's the new twist. The 8 best third-place teams also get a lifeline and qualify. All 32 of those teams then head into a brand new knockout stage, the round of 32. So what does that mean? A little more room for error in the group, sure, but it also means 1 extra do-or-die knockout match to survive.
Now, FIFA has been pretty clever here. They've structured the draw very deliberately to make sure the biggest drama happens late in the game. Using the world rankings, the top 4 seats, we're talking Spain, Argentina, France, and England, are all placed in separate quarters of the bracket. So if they all win their groups and keep advancing, these 4 giants can't possibly meet until the semifinals. It's all set up for some potentially epic showdowns for a spot in that final.
But just because the top seeds are protected doesn't mean there aren't some absolute minefields in the group stage. And everyone agrees the group of death is Group I. It's not hard to see why. You've got France, the 2018 winners and 2022 finalists. You've got Senegal, the champs of Africa. And you've got Norway, led by the goal-scoring machine himself, Erling Haaland. Wow, that is just a brutal, brutal draw for anyone involved.
And that group gives us what might be the biggest match of the entire group stage: France versus Norway. I mean, this is more than just the game, it's a total clash of narratives. You have Kylian Mbappé, the face of France's established powerhouse, going head-to-head with Erling Haaland, the guy leading this exciting new generation from Norway. It's the kind of superstar matchup that can completely define a World Cup.
Speaking of powerhouses, that brings us to our next big question. With the stage set, who are the teams that actually have what it takes to navigate this gauntlet and lift that trophy?
So who does the data say has the best shot? Well, according to the number crunchers over at Opta, a clear top tier has emerged. Their supercomputer simulations give Spain the best chance of winning it all, at 17%. Right behind them are France and then England, rounding out the top 3 favorites. So let's take a closer look at what makes each of them a real contender.
Let's start with the slight favorites, Spain. They're the reigning European champions, and their whole game is built on just incredible technical skill and tactical smarts. But their biggest weakness is a huge one:
injuries. With some of their key players facing major setbacks, the real question is whether they have enough depth to fill those massive holes when it really matters.
Then you've got France, a team with an almost unfair amount of talent. Seriously, their squad depth is probably the best in the entire world. But here's the thing, they've been to the last 2 finals. The real challenge for them isn't physical, it's psychological. Can they possibly maintain that insane hunger and focus to make it to a 3rd straight final? That's a monumental ask for any team.
And what about England? They're entering a whole new era under manager Thomas Tuchel. He's working with this perfect blend of veteran leadership in Harry Kane and just explosive young talent like Jude Bellingham and Bukayo Saka. They've looked amazing in qualifying, but you know the question that has haunted England for decades is still there. Can they finally deliver in the high-pressure cooker of the knockout stages?
And of course, you can never, ever count out Brazil. Their strength is timeless, right? That elite attacking flair, with guys like Vinicius Jr. leading the charge. But get this, it's now been 24 years since they last won it all. The talent is definitely there under Carlo Ancelotti, but the big question is whether he can finally give them the tactical discipline that's been missing in the last few World Cups.
Because at the end of the day, these team stories are going to be written by the individual players on the field. So for our last section, let's zoom in on the stars who are going to define this tournament, for better or for worse.
So who are the players we're all going to be talking about? You know the names. We're talking about Mbappé, Haaland, Vinicius Jr., Jude Bellingham. These are the absolute superstars, right in their prime. The kind of players who can single-handedly win a match and carry the hopes of an entire nation on their shoulders. But for every superstar who's ready to shine, there's another whose World Cup dream is in serious jeopardy. The lead-up to this tournament has already been filled with some really serious injury crises affecting several of the top nations.
Remember those injury questions around Spain? Well, this is exactly why. They were dealt what's being called a crushing blow when their key midfielder, Mikel Merino, went down with a foot fracture. We're talking a 4 to 5 month recovery, which puts his chances of playing in serious doubt. That leaves a huge hole right in the heart of their team.
And for Brazil, the dream of seeing Neymar at one last World Cup is quickly fading. The superstar tore the meniscus in his knee during training, an injury that needs surgery. This latest heartbreaking setback makes it pretty much impossible for him to be ready in time, and it might just be the final chapter of a legendary, if complicated, World Cup career. So, it all comes down to this. In a World Cup that's bigger, more spread out, and potentially hotter than any we've ever seen, the winner will have to conquer more than just their opponents on the field. They'll have to conquer the journey itself. The real question is, which team has the depth, the resilience, and just the sheer will to do it? Subscribe to World Talk Brief for more clear, thoughtful explanations.